Hello to the pessimistic, optimistic, and everyone in between. My name is Connor Philippine. Welcome back to the Minnesotan Sports Podcast. And it is crunch time for the Minnesota Vikings. I plan on making a state of the Vikings every quarter of the season this year. So after this game, that's when that state of the Vikings will come out. Last year was just going into the bye. But this year, our bye is so late that I figured I'd do quarters of the season. So stay tuned for that video. That video's content will vary drastically based on what happens in this game, though, which is why I'm bringing it up. The Vikings coming into this game obviously have not won a game, looking for their first one against another team that hasn't won a game, which is the Carolina Panthers. Not only have they not won a game, they have looked really bad, honestly. And it makes sense that they would struggle out of the gate with a new young quarterback, and they're just kind of in that mode where they're starting to rebuild. And so the Vikings, on the other hand, have lost every single game in a way where it felt like we were good enough to win. So we're clearly the better team than the Panthers. It's just a matter of who wants it more, and there's going to be a lot of factors for what ends up happening in this game. And again, the Vikings should win it based off of the team on paper, but I mean, we're 0-3 and have nothing to show for the talent we have on this roster. So, without further ado, let's get into this game. And we always talk about the history between the two teams. For the Vikings, they are 10-6 all time against the Panthers. They joined the league in 2000, I believe, right around that time. And or maybe it was like 1990, mid 1990s, something like that. Anyway, we are 10-6 all time against them. Our last game was a pretty memorable one. It was that 34-28 win in overtime a couple seasons ago. We all remember that KJ Osborne catch to win that game. It always feels like we play the Panthers away. Like very few times I feel like I've personally watched us play at home against the Panthers, but should be a good game, and we'll get into all the factors of this game, starting with the injuries. And honestly, both of these teams are fairly healthy. Xavier Woods is out for the Panthers. That'll be a big factor. Miles Sanders is questionable, and then a couple other questionables as well. Jonathan Mingo, the wide receiver 3 for the Panthers, is also now questionable. That wide receiver room for the Panthers looking even more thin if he ends up not going. And on the Vikings side, obviously Lewis Cine continues to be out. I don't even know if he would start at this point on this defense. If he was in, he hasn't really gotten a fair shake so far in his career. Marcus Davenport is questionable. Will he actually play? We'll find out. I really hope he does. And then obviously a big factor is Garrett Bradbury. Schlottman has been okay in that center position, but we're going to need him back if we're going to make any kind of a run in these next few games. And obviously the main question now is, will Risner start? And we'll talk about that more as we get into some of these key factors of the game. Going into this Panthers depth chart, though, before we start, on the offensive side, I'm not entirely impressed, and obviously it makes sense. Again, this is a team that is currently on the edge of rebuilding. Bryce Young, the rookie quarterback, that, obviously you have to have a full season in the NFL before you even start to be judged, and before your role with the team even can begin to be questioned yet. That's always been something that I feel is unfair, is that a quarterback will come in his first year, and that never used to be the way the league works. You'd always come in and you'd learn behind the veteran quarterback, and then you'd go out and try and prove yourself. So when a player is being thrown in like this, their rookie year at the quarterback position, I feel like if they have a good year, great, and they show a lot of promise for the future. If they have a bad year, forget it. Wipe the slate clean, especially if they're a high draft pick. I mean, it takes a while to develop in this league. So the first few starts by Bryce Young not being, well, first of all, Bryce Young didn't even play last week. He was dealing with an injury. So the first couple starts of his career, you can't really judge based off of those two, or even the first half of his season. Just all you need to do is just work on your development, even if the results aren't there yet. Just learn and grow. And if the Panthers aren't willing to let him do that, then they're at a loss. And the rest of this offense, we got Miles Sanders, like I said, is questionable. Chuba Hubbard, one of the more capable backups in this league, willing to take his spot if he doesn't play. We have Adam Thielen and DJ Chark Jr., the two wide receivers on this team. Adam Thielen, and I say two wide receivers because the depth is just not there right now, like I mentioned. Adam Thielen looking for a revenge game against the Vikings. He is pretty much the wide receiver one at this point for the Panthers. Had a pretty nice night last week, and it's going to be a big driving factor for him to try and prove himself again versus his old team. He knows that this defense can be, susceptible to a lot of different things. So he's going to have a potentially a big game, but we'll see. And then the rest of the offense, really nothing to sneeze at. Going into these matchups, keys to the game, limit turnovers for the Vikings is the main factor for them. Can they hold on to the football? It's the simplest thing, but we lost the game against the Chargers for two reasons, and I'll get into the second one in just a second. But one of the main ones is turnovers. We couldn't win the turnover battle. We probably could have beaten the Eagles. Maybe they would have kicked it into gear earlier in that game. Who knows? But that Jefferson fumble completely shifted the momentum of the game. It's a really weird situation. Couple interceptions and fumble in the Buccaneers game. If those turnovers had been in our favor, it wouldn't have even been close. And so we can honestly be 3-0 right now if it weren't for those turnovers. There are more issues to this team than just the turnovers, but it's a major factor. If we can limit turnovers the rest of this season, we can get up to a good point. Next up, is Reisner going to play? That's going to be a big factor. Ed Ingram is just awful. I there's no other way to say it. I can't sugarcoat it. I hate to drag him through the mud this much, but everyone knows at this point, Ed Ingram is the weakest link of this team by a long shot. And in the words of Jane Lynch and the other British lady that came before her, you are the weakest link. Goodbye. Let's bring in Reisner and let's get this job done. And if he doesn't play, it has to be for a major. It would have to be for a major reason. If Kevin O'Connell just doesn't play him because he wants to stick with the guys he has, then that's not going to fly. If he doesn't trust him because of how limited of action he's actually had with him not being in NFL game action for a long time now, then that would be a little more believable. But I can't see O'Connell not starting him pretty soon because Ingram's just awful. And then score in the red zone, that's worth three different times saying it. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's almost impossible how bad we were in the red zone last week. I think the numbers were something around like first and goal at the 3 twice and then a first and goal at the 6. And I think we might have gotten, what was it, like 6 points or even 3 points that we got out of that. We can't do that. It can't happen. Even the best teams in the league can run themselves down the field and get in the red zone, but if they can't get in the end zone, it's all for naught. It's all for nothing. There's no way you can win games consistently with not getting even field goals. I mean, how do you even not get field goals in the red zone? So the Vikings need to work on that, punching the ball in. They need to run the ball better in the red zone, especially at the goal line. And also, it's not just the running game's fault. I mean, so many situations where wide receivers and tight ends just weren't getting open. And that end of the game interception was on Hawkinson. It wasn't a perfect pinpoint throw, but Kirk got it to the window he needed to get it to, and Hawkinson just couldn't grab it. I mean, you got to catch the ball in that situation, and the entire offense just stalled in that part of the field. So that's another big factor. Also, the defense, it should do damage against Bryce Young. It should, because this is the style of defense where I was saying all offseason long, like we might struggle against the more veteran quarterbacks out of the gate, but right out of the gate, we should be destroying these young quarterbacks and young offenses, because Bryce Young, yeah, obviously he has experience with pass rushes and everything, but not at the NFL level. He's getting flustered early, and this Vikings defense that is pressuring, or is blitzing more than anyone else in the league right now, and is one of the lowest in pressures. Like, that just can't happen. And you have to if you can get Bryce Young uncomfortable in this game, I think the Vikings win. I mean, Bryce Young has to be very comfortable in the pocket in order for the Vikings to lose this, especially because, you got Thielen, you got Moore. What else do you have, really? So you can't allow Thielen to get open. We know he's capable of doing that still, even as he gets older. DJ Moore's still a wide receiver that isn't to be trifled with. And if you can get Bryce Young to the ground, get him uncomfortable, hit him a little bit, I think it's going to do wonders for this defense. But if we continue to blitz and can't get to the quarterback, that's how guys tend to get open. You can't bring that many guys in to a blitz or to a play and bring that many guys in from coverage and force them all on the quarterback. If the quarterback even has a few seconds to react, there's going to be a guy open. So we have to find a way to get that defense to hit home against Bryce Young because he has not been great this year. Let's not make him look like one of the best quarterbacks in the league like we've done in the past to some bad quarterbacks. And then the final thing here, the Vikings could definitely see themselves having some opportunities early in the game to take a lead and to try and run with it. And literally run with it because a big factor will be the run game. And let's give Madison some more chances. I know he's been fumbling the ball, and I know there's guys waiting in the wings, but I still believe that Madison can deliver what this team needs at the running back position. Obviously, if it continues like this and he keeps fumbling over and over again, you got to start giving Ty Chandler some opportunities and some other guys. But for now, stick with Madison, see if it is starting to work because the offensive line has not been blocking for him either. Like, they have not been doing him any favors too. So let's figure out what the issue is. Is it Madison or is it the offensive line? I'm still leaning towards it being the offensive line, honestly, but we'll have to see as the weeks go by. So, all that out of the way, my prediction for this game is a Vikings victory, 30-23. The Vikings can't lose this game, can they? I mean, it's just, they're 0-3, but they could easily be 3-0. The Panthers, I feel like, deserve their 0-3. They're at that stage where they're just on the precipice of starting to tank. And they have their quarterback of the future, but I feel like they're just a ways away, and they deserve that 0-3 spot. The Vikings shouldn't have the 0-3, and I think that they proved that this week. I think it should be a little less close, but I have to predict that it's closer because that's the way Vikings games have gone. So anyway, that does it for my prediction. Let me know what your prediction is in the comments. It should be a fun game to watch. I wish that we didn't have to be on the edge of our seats to see if our season would be officially over or not versus the Carolina Panthers in week 4. I thought we would at least be 1-2 at this point, and then have the opportunity to go to 500, but I guess we're fighting for our first win of the season. Not what I saw happening, but it is what it is as a Vikings fan. But fun fact, I will be bringing my raw reaction to you from the Renaissance Fair on Sunday. So I'll be dressed in, I'm not going all out or anything. I'm just wearing like one of those, you'll see in the video. But if you're wondering why all these people are, I've never been to a Renaissance Fair, so I'm not even sure how to describe it, but I'll be doing my raw reaction from there. But anyway, thanks so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the flip side.